Imagine walking through history, past ancient monuments in Rome, only to discover that one of the, well, most famous arches you're looking at has basically been living a lie for centuries. It's had a total identity crisis.
It really is a fascinating scenario, where even these grand structures, seemingly so solid and unchanging, they reveal a history that's far from set in stone.
Absolutely. And you've asked us to take a deep dive into this very story, the story of the Arch of Drusus in Rome. It's that prominent monument standing near the Appian Way and Porta San Sebastiano.
Right. So our mission today really is to unpack the intricate and sometimes contradictory history of this specific arch. We want to explore the real figure of Drusus the Elder and also understand how historical understanding evolves, layer by layer.
Okay, let's dive into that identity crisis. If you were to stand before this monument today, what would you actually see?
Well, you'd see the central part of what was likely a triple fornis arch. So 3 openings, or at least, one main arch with significant side projections. It was originally built of travertine, a type of limestone, and then faced with precious marble. Very grand.
And it's pretty big, right?
Oh yeah. Its scale is quite grand. You'd notice that immediately. It stands, 7.21 meters high. And it has these really striking columns made of Numidian yellow marble.
Wow, yellow marble.
Yeah, distinctive stuff set on these crisp white marble bases. And the design features, like the triangular pediment you see above the columns and those freestanding columns themselves, they really hint at a specific artistic period in Roman architecture.
Now, what I found particularly intriguing about this arch is its later connection to an aqueduct, the Aqua Antoniana.
Ah, yes. That's a key part of its later life.
Emperor Caracalla built it, I think, between 211 and 216 AD to get water to his huge baths. How did that connection actually work? Did they just build the aqueduct right on top?
That's a great question, and it really highlights Roman practicality. So while some popular accounts suggested the aqueduct was built directly over the arch, it even got nicknamed the Dripping Arch because of this.
The Dripping Arch, okay.
Yeah. But the prevailing view among scholars now is that the arch itself actually predated the aqueduct. The water channel was simply, routed conveniently over an existing structure.
Ah, okay. So it was already there, and they thought, hey, let's use this.
Exactly. It was a clever, efficient reuse of infrastructure. It's a common Roman trait, really adapting existing buildings for new purposes instead of always building completely from scratch.
So if the aqueduct story is clearer, what about its name? This is where the story gets its biggest twist, isn't it?
It really is.
Despite being called the Arch of Drusus, scholars now generally agree this arch has absolutely nothing to do with Nero Claudius Drusus.
Nothing at all, which is kind of amazing.
How could such a monumental misidentification like that stick for centuries?
That's the heart of the mystery, isn't it? Many historians now believe, based on the architectural features we mentioned, it's most likely the remains of an Arch of Trajan.
Trajan. Okay, different emperor entirely.
Completely. The misidentification seems to have started somewhere in the 16th century.
Yeah.
And it likely just gained momentum. It got repeated on maps, in popular guidebooks.
Ah, so once it's written down a few times.
Exactly. Once a name like that sticks, especially for a prominent landmark, it's incredibly hard to dislodge, even when new evidence comes along. It's a powerful lesson, really, in how historical narratives can become fixed, sometimes regardless of the facts.
And there's even another layer to this arch's story, another transformation.
Right, it keeps getting reused.
In the early 5th century, under Emperor Honorius, the arch was actually incorporated into the defensive Aurelian walls.
Mm-hmm. It was joined up with the Porta San Sebastiano, the nearby gate, basically turning it into part of the city's fortifications for military purposes.
Wow. So it went from possibly a commemorative arch to aqueduct support and then into a defensive wall. That's quite a journey for one structure.
Absolutely. It's a prime example of how Roman structures were continuously repurposed across different eras. It reflects changing needs and priorities from, triumph to practical infrastructure and then to vital defense. It shows how the same physical space can just accrue entirely new functions and meanings over time.
So we've kind of sorted out the identity of this arch, the one standing today. But that leaves a huge question. Who was the real Drusus? Drusus the Elder, the guy whose name got mistakenly stuck to this arch for so long. Let's dive into his story.
Yeah, we definitely need to meet the real Drusus. He was born Decimus Claudius Drusus in 38 BCE. His mother was Livia, his father Tiberius Claudius Nero, and importantly, he became the stepson of Augustus Caesar himself.
Augustus, the first emperor.
The very one. Augustus married Livia and adopted Drusus in 32 BCE, so he was right at the heart of the imperial family.
He was fast-tracked right up the career ladder.
Oh, definitely. He moved quickly through the cursus honorum, that traditional sequence of public offices. And he proved to be an exceptionally talented military commander from a young age. He rose through the ranks very fast.
And his big claim to fame was Germania.
Absolutely. Drusus was the first Roman general to really push deep into Germania and achieve major conquests there. He led these extraordinary campaigns across the Rhine River between 12 BCE and 9 BCE.
What did he achieve there?
Well, he's incredibly successful. He established numerous key Roman forts and settlements along the Rhine, including a military base that would eventually become modern-day Augsburg in Germany.
Okay.
He even took his fleet into the North Sea, into the Wadden Sea area, pushing Roman influence further north than any general before him had managed.
But his story takes a bit of a strange turn, doesn't it, in 9 BCE?
It really does. A dramatic, almost mythical turn. He was right on the verge of crossing the Elbe River, deep in German territory. And according to the accounts, Drusus reportedly had this supernatural encounter.
Supernatural? What happened?
A fearsome female Germanic figure, described sometimes as a ghoul or a seer, apparently appeared to him. And she spoke Latin, warning him to leave her homeland, telling him his days were numbered.
Whoa! A talking ghoul warning a Roman general. That's unexpected in a military campaign history.
It certainly adds a layer of legend. And the story goes that he actually listened. He turned back after that warning, and he ordered a monument, a trophy, to be erected right there near modern Magdeburg to mark the limit of his advance.
But tragically, the warning kind of came true, didn't it?
Sadly, yes. Shortly after turning back, Drusus died. He was only 29. It wasn't in battle, though. It was an accident, a fall from his horse. The horse apparently collapsed and fell on his leg, causing a fatal injury.
Oh, that's terrible. Just 29.
Yeah, a huge loss for Rome. His troops, apparently quite shaken, called the site where it happened Castra Scellerata, which translates to something like the accursed fort. His older brother, Tiberius, the future emperor Tiberius, rushed across the Alps to be with him in his final moments.
What a story. So Rome must have mourned him deeply.
The entire nation did. He was a massive hero. The Senate proclaimed him a fecund genius, a genius destined for greatness, and they posthumously granted him this unique honorary title, Germanicus.
Germanicus meaning conqueror of Germania.
Exactly, and that honor was actually passed down to his sons. This included Germanicus Caesar, the famous general, and also the future emperor Claudius. And through the family line, even Caligula and Nero were technically descendants who could claim connection to this title.
So he was, in every sense, a national hero.
Absolutely. And the Romans celebrated his memory. They held annual racing competitions in his honor, erected statues, and crucially for our story, they built him a triumphal arch in Rome.
Ah, so there was an Arch of Drusus.
There absolutely was. The actual Arch of Drusus. It was dedicated specifically to him, a marble structure adorned with military trophies put up by the Senate around 9 BCE, shortly after his death.
Mm-hmm.
This is the real deal.
Okay, so where was this arch? The real one?
Good question. Historical sources, like ancient writers, place this original, now lost arch on the Appian Way, probably near where it met another road, the Via Latina.
And is there any physical evidence?
Well, this is fascinating. Back in the 1930s, archaeologists unearthed some foundations. They were found midway between the arch we call the Arch of Drusus today and the Porta Appia gate. And many believe these foundations belong to that original lost structure dedicated to him.
Wow, so the real one might have been quite close by.
It seems so. And this true arch even lent its name to a nearby street, the Vicus Drusianus. So its memory clearly persisted in the area's geography for a time.
Any other traces?
There's one more intriguing clue. The Einsiedel Itinerary is a famous medieval guidebook for pilgrims visiting Rome. Written around the 9th century, it refers to an Arcus Recordationis.
Arch of Remembrance.
Exactly. An Arch of Remembrance located near the baths of Caracalla. Some scholars think this might have been a lingering reference to the original Arch of Drusus, which was likely already gone, maybe destroyed or dismantled by that time.
It really shows how memory and names can kind of drift, doesn't it? Persisting even after the physical thing is gone, and sometimes, like we've seen, latching onto completely different monuments nearby.
Precisely. It's a perfect example of that process.
This whole deep dive, it really underscores how important Roman arches were in general, doesn't it? They weren't just about celebrating military victories.
Not at all. They were really a core feature of Roman architecture. Yes, triumphal arches were significant, but arches were fundamental structural elements in aqueducts, as we've seen.
Right.
In bridges, in amphitheaters like the Colosseum, as grand entrances to cities. They were everywhere.
Symbolizing Roman power and ingenuity.
Absolutely, both things.
Right.
They showcase brilliant practical engineering. I mean, think about the physics of an arch distributing weight, but also served as these grand monumental displays of victory, imperial authority, and civic pride. Functional, beautiful, and deeply symbolic, often all at the same time.
And their legacy is still so visible. Rome itself still has these magnificent triumphal arches that really define its historical landscape. You think of the Arch of Constantine, right near the Colosseum.
Mm-hmm. Or the Arch of Titus, with those famous reliefs showing the spoils from Jerusalem.
Yeah, and the Arch of Septimius Severus in the Roman Forum, they're iconic.
They really are. And that Roman tradition, the idea of the monumental commemorative arch, it continued to inspire architects for centuries. Just look at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris.
Oh, definitely. A clear echo.
It's a direct descendant, drawing on that same Roman grandeur. It really makes you wonder, what other architectural forms that we see every day have such a deep, evolving history, maybe even with their own hidden stories or, mistaken identities?
Well, you've certainly taken us on a remarkable journey today. We've uncovered how this single Roman arch, the one misnamed for Drusus, holds all these layers: mistaken identity, ingenious engineering adaptations, fortification, and even links back to the dramatic story of a forgotten hero.
It's such a powerful reminder that history is rarely as straightforward as it seems on the surface. It's much more like a dynamic puzzle, isn't it? Constantly being reassembled as we find new pieces of information or question old assumptions.
Yeah, absolutely. This deep dive really reveals how monuments can carry multiple meanings, multiple stories, even multiple identities across the centuries.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it makes you question, doesn't it? What other narratives, what other accepted truths about our past might be built on centuries of, perhaps, misinterpretation or simplification? What other layers might be hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to ask the right questions, dig a little deeper, and maybe reshape our understanding of the world